Oh, hello! Are you looking for Dr. Beesing? Oh, I'm not him. See, I have a beard and mustache. I'm his not-so-handsome twin, Lyle Beesing. But he's around here somewhere. I'll go get him. Oh, hello. I didn't realize you'd be here so soon. Isn't it funny when twins wear the same clothes and only look different because of facial hair? But anyway, today we're going to start talking about probability. So before we talk too much about probability, the thing we need to do first is just to make sure that we're all on the same page about terminology. So probability is just the likelihood of something happening in an experiment or an activity. And by experiment, what we mean is an operation that happens under given conditions. So whether or not we're sampling people in a survey, or whether or not we're rolling a six-sided die, or maybe, we're just flipping a coin, right? And it may seem like chance, but it's actually very mathematical, unlike where that coin went. That's magic. So first off, we have some terminology already. We have probability, we have experiment, and we also have outcomes. What we mean by the outcome of an experiment is just what are the different things that can happen when we do our experiment. If I'm going to flip a coin, right, then my outcomes are I could get a heads or I could get a tails. If I'm going to roll a six-sided die, right, I could get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If I'm talking about whether or not a baby is going to be born a boy or a girl, right, then those are the two different outcomes. And for each of those outcomes, we may want to strive to answer what is the probability of that outcome happening. And so these are what are called simple events. And we can talk about events in general. Events in general are just a collection of outcomes. So instead of asking what's the probability of me rolling a six-sided die and getting a 3, I might ask what's the probability of rolling a six-sided die and getting something less than or equal to. Then instead of just one of the outcomes being what I'm interested in what's the probability of getting a 1, a 2, or a 3. So any combination of these outcomes we can call an event. And the whole collection of outcomes, all of the possible things that can occur from a given experiment, is called the sample space. So if I'm flipping a coin, my sample space is heads or tails. If I'm rolling a six-sided die, my sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If I'm asking a student what they're majoring in, then my sample spaces are all of the various majors that were offered at KWC. And so we have outcomes that are single events that can happen, or single outcomes of an experiment. We have events, which are collections of those, and we have sample spaces, which consist of all of the possible outcomes of a particular experiment. And so for these things, we want to assign a probability to those. So we attempt to assign probabilities to outcomes or events. And whenever we do that, we use the notation, let A be an event. Then we ask, what is the probability of A occurring? And in some cases, you may have heard talk of probability where you use percentages of something happening. Something happens 50% of the time, or 75% of the time. In this class, we want to talk about probabilities as decimals. So 50% becomes 0.5, and 70% becomes 0.75. And so in that case, probabilities will always fall between 0 and 1. Where a probability of 0 means that even A never happens. Where in the probability of A being 1 means that the event A always happens. So if I was going to flip a coin, right, then the event of getting heads and tails would be an event that never happens because I can only have one. Or rolling a 6-sided die and getting a 7 is something that just can't happen. You have probability 0. But the event of rolling a 6-sided die and getting something less than 7 is always going to happen. So that'd be probability 1. Whenever we talk about probabilities, we're talking about decimals between 0 and 1. And so that's a brief introduction for what we're going to be talking about in probability. These are important terms to know to make sure that you can stay up with everything that we're talking about in the future.